meters of my boutique hotel or guest house, there were something like 15 very, very good restaurants. So for me to do, to give a full board, meals indeed, we'd make sandwiches and things like that, but our primary objective was to have beautiful rooms, all different, with, I'm saying, mod cons. In those days, Wi-Fi was not as efficient as it is nowadays, but we had Wi-Fi, one of the first hotels to have it, and we gave what I would call a luxury breakfast. In those days, most breakfasts were sausage, a bacon, a bit of kasha, and maybe a bit of fruit. We personalised things, so breakfast was virtually made, not like they have in the big hotels now, and this is one of my big bugbears. Bugbear is when you have a complaint. In most of the big hotels here, breakfast is cold. I don't like it. I come from Ireland. First of all, our breakfast plate, we're having a hot meal, it has to be hot. In Moscow, you have cold bacon, cold crispy bacon, sausages which I wouldn't, eggs generally are cooked while they're so they're normally okay. But you have other things, you have hash browns and things like that, and they're cold. I've done quite a few what are called secret guests, where I've gone to hotels just to tell them what's wrong. I'm nasty. I'm a nasty person when I do it. Why? Because I believe in telling the truth. I don't appreciate it, but I actually got a chef fired. Because I had a meal that evening, and I saw him doing things, because it was an open kitchen. I saw him doing things which I said, if he worked in my hotel, he'd be fired. So I called the manager. We talked about it. We had a meeting with the chef, and the chef admitted that he'd done it. In Russia, he didn't get a second chance. I'm a firm believer in what we call baseball. 3 strikes and you're out. First time, you tell somebody about it. Second time, it's a second warning, and the third time, you're gone. We always give people a chance because anybody can make a mistake. And I think this is a thing that has to come into business nowadays. It's so easy, I think, in Russia to fire somebody. You understand fire? Sack somebody. I don't believe in it. I believe in everybody should have a chance. But if they do something terrible, which is what this guy, the manager of the hotel, thought immediately, he's gone. So I went back to the hotel a few weeks later, and everything had improved. So it's important. Standards are necessary. You've got to keep standards up. My second hotel, by the way, was a small 10-bedroom hotel with a marina on the biggest river in Ireland. I also had 40 self-catering houses, and that was probably one of the best times in my life, because I saw that build from the ground, and it was fantastic. Yeah? Unfortunately, it was only a summer hotel, because in the winter in Ireland, it's not as cold as here, but there's people not sailing up and down the river, cruising up and down the river. But it was exciting. So there are my 2 mini hotels in Ireland, where I got away from the huge complexes that I've been involved in.
Еще вопросы? Ребят, ну не стесняйтесь. Maybe you can talk more about some fun experience that you had during your job as a director or in those hotels or something else.
Fun experience. Let's put it this way, I could talk about hundreds and hundreds of experiences. I think probably one of the most trying ones pressure jobs I've ever had was I was organising a tour of the New Zealand rugby team, who were the world champions. You probably know nothing about rugby, but they are the creme de la creme of rugby. And many years ago, I was organising a tour for them to come to Ireland prior to the World Cup to do training. So I was organising the games against my club and another club. And at the very last moment, I'm saying last moment, with about 10 days before they were due to arrive, the Irish Rugby Union told me the National Stadium was not available. Here's me, people flying 15,000 miles, 20-odd thousand kilometres to come to play a rugby match. What do I do? So I looked at our camp where we have our pitches, and I built a stadium for 7,500 people within a week. We finished it 5 hours before we were due to play the game, where we got health and safety to say everything was okay. It was basically scaffolding. You know, scaffolding that they put up the side of buildings. We did it, and the seats was just wood. I also had to put up marquees to entertain 2,000 corporate guests, all for in the same period of time, whereas before everything had been easy. I think I aged about 10 years, and I think that's why I became grey, because it was pressure, 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 but it paid off. And I think it's highlighting. If you go in and say, oh, we have a problem, what happens? Chances are you'll fail. The first word you should say, how do I overcome this thing that has happened? Don't even call it a problem. Because once you start negative, you're not going to succeed. Negativity it's a bad word as far as I'm concerned. Positivity is great. And within a few hours, I organised a team. He was a specialist in that, he was a specialist in that, and we built a stadium for 7,500 people, plus all the comfort of offering corporate guests who were paying huge amounts of money in those days for fine foods, wines and drinks and everything. So that was probably the biggest problem I've ever had. But there was a spin-off from this which is quite a funny one. I did so well with the New Zealand team that when they toured Ireland 2 years later, the Irish Rugby Union normally organised the people who organised the tour for them. They said, no, we want Dave Pearce. So I got to know a few of the guys who had been on the team quite well, and they knew that I was quite a good cook. So the captain of the team and his brother and a couple of other people said, Dave, we have a free night on Wednesday. Will you cook dinner for us? So I said, yeah, of course. So the first game they played was on the previous Tuesday against Leinster. They won that. They went down to Cork. By the time, because I was organising, I was with them. When we went to Cork, they said to me, Dave, can a few more people come to have dinner with us? So I said, how many? There'll be about 8 or 10 of us now. So I said, okay, grand, I'll organise it. They went on then to Galway to play in Galway on the Tuesday before coming. I got a phone call from Galway. I decided to go back to Dublin to organise everything. I got a phone call on the Tuesday night saying, Dave, there's 24 of us now. I had a one-bedroom apartment. One-bedroom apartment. So I ended up bringing in catering equipment from the rugby club, and I made stir-fry, rice and all sorts of things. I got 2 girls to help me, and I had these big hunks of guys sitting on the floor, you know, and coming for food, and they all loved the food. And I always remember one of them. He was ginormous. And he came up to me and he said, can I have some more? I said, who do you think you are? Oliver Twist? Do you know Oliver Twist? It's a fairy tale, you know, where the little beggar boy goes up and begs for food. So that was one of the highlights and the funny aspects of my time with rugby, because rugby is really my sport. And I'm actually involved with rugby here at the moment with the Moscow Dragons. And in 3 weeks' time, I'm taking them over, there's 63 of them, travelling to Ireland to play rugby against my old team, and we're going to do tours and things like that. So, yeah, rugby it's my love.
Well, what can you advise in the end of our visit for them in cases like you had, with a variety of difficulties and opportunities and probably tasks that they will have in their professional career? What should they do to prepare themselves? What basic knowledge they should have to be able to solve problems like you had, or issues?
Well, let's put it this way. In most cases, unless you're a boss, you don't have too many problems. You only have minor problems to solve. And a lot of this depends on your intellect. If you know the product, we all make mistakes. Everybody's made mistakes. But the thing is rectifying that mistake. You've got to be able to say, God, I made a mistake. I always suggest never try to hide it from your boss. If he's a good boss, you can go to him and say, look, I have a problem. I've made a mistake. What can we do? Give me your help. And most bosses will help you. I've had staff who've cost me $10,000. I didn't fire them because they came to me quick enough to be able to only lose $10,000 instead of $20,000 or $30,000. That's the reaction. That's how you appreciate staff, because you always got to analyze when you make a mistake. Do something about it. Never hide it, because you'll be found out. If he's a good boss, you will be found out about the mistake, and then that's when they say, "There's the door. You're gone." If you can react and do something about it, most times your boss will appreciate it. Now, in a job where you're starting at a lower level, I say you're not going to make too many mistakes if you do your work correctly and concentrate. Too many people don't concentrate on their job. They go in, they're going to fall out with a boyfriend or I'm not in the mood. You know, I'm sorry, but I look at it as a boss and I say, I'm paying your salary. I don't want to be paying you a salary where you're coming in, you're not concentrating, you're not giving the service to the people who are paying your wages. And that is, when you're in the tourism and hospitality business, always remember that the people who pay the subscriptions to a health club, who pay the deposits on a holiday, they are the ones that are paying your salary. If you're in a hotel, you know, you're earning money. Money's a great thing, we all love it. None of us like to be charitable. A little charitable, but not too much. So I would always suggest that you concentrate on your job, try to perform to your best capabilities, because you're going to be in a situation where sometimes you don't feel right, but you've got to push that behind you. You've got to say, look, I'm in my job, I want to succeed in my job. If you want to progress, you've got to do it correctly. You've got to show to your peers in the job and to your bosses that you are concentrating 100% and your priority is to do a good job. If you do that, you have every chance of succeeding in business. Unfortunately, there'll be one or two people who don't succeed. There's always that probability that something might happen. But I always suggest to people then who've had a bad experience to immediately react and say, right, that's not going to happen again. Why? Because I'm going to make sure that in the future I know more, I have a idea of what is going on and how to progress, and of course then you're in a situation where you won't make a mistake, the same mistake again, unless you are a little bit. Most people learn from mistakes, and that's the priority that I say to people, is learn from your mistakes. We've all made them. I made them. Bad ones. But the thing is, you've got to rejuvenate yourself. You've got to get more positive. That's really all the help I can give you at the moment.
Thank you very much. It was immensely educational, and I think our students were very happy to meet you. Let's say thank you to our guests.
You're always welcome to, speak to me at any time. You can get my contact details through some area. I'm always interested in discussing people who are interested in what has been my life, which is leisure, tourism and leisure activities. So, thank you. Thank you for coming.